And today I'm joined by another special guest. Like I do with every other podcast, I just get them to introduce yourself. So if you could introduce yourself to the viewers, that would be awesome.
What's up, everyone? My name's Anthony Garvin. A little bit about myself. I'm 25. I'm a single father, and I've been into fitness for 7 to 8 years now. Been active my whole life, but really into bodybuilding for going on 8 years.
Awesome. So basically, how I start every icebreaker, it's like an icebreaker, I guess you'd say, but I kind of like it to ask it to everybody because I feel like everybody's got maybe a story of how they got into training or weightlifting. For you, how did you kind of stumble along weightlifting? Was it like a sports related thing, or was it something that you just kind of found a different interest with?
Basically found a different interest in it. So like I said, I've been active my whole life. Right out of high school, sports just kind of stopped. Wasn't able to do so much sports. So then I got into the gym with my buddy because after I had my son, he said I was gaining a little bit of dad. He pushed me into the gym, and I was like, all right, well, I'll try this out. So I started working out, and he was saying that I had good genetics, and everyone that I was meeting in the gym saying I had good genetics, I should try bodybuilding, try some shows. And basically I was like, all right, screw it. I'm just going to try to go full force into this. Since everyone's saying the same thing, I had some, confidence in myself to do it. So I just went for it. And ever since then, I couldn't go back. And also that working out has just became my therapy as well. So going to the gym every day is just my way to relax and get away.
Awesome. So with bodybuilding itself, did you kind of have a passion for it, or was it something that you mentioned with somebody else who mentioned it and then you kind of started to look into it? Was it something that you always knew about, or was it if they didn't bring it up, do you think you would have been involved with it? Do you feel?
Oh, I've always liked bodybuilding. I always thought it was a fantastic sport. I always had a very big infatuation with Arnold Schwarzenegger, really his whole entire career. But his bodybuilding, I just it was inspiring, just push myself regardless of whatever I was doing. But I would have probably never have joined bodybuilding if it wasn't for my buddy really trying to push me for it.
Yeah. See, for me, it was something that I trained at a gym. So a gym that was kind of, I wouldn't say bodybuilding, but there was a couple of people that worked at the gym that were very heavily involved with bodybuilding. So for me, it was more just being involved with the gym and just kind of, because I don't know if you can relate to this, but some gyms are more you see a lot of power lifters. Other gyms, you see a lot of just people that are going for general lifestyle. Then you get some gyms where it's a lot of bodybuilders train there. So for me, it was just I was exposed to trainers at the gym who basically I was involved with bodybuilding. So that's kind of how I started. Just kind of I experimented with a couple of people's opinions and stuff like that. And I actually hired one of the coaches at the gym to do the show prep. So that's kind of how I stumbled on bodybuilding. So for your competitions, how many bodybuilding shows have you done?
Now, see, I haven't done any competitions yet.
Okay.
Now, my reasoning is because I'm kind of a perfectionist, and I always want to go on looking as if I'm already going for a pro show. And that's my problem that I need to deal with, is that to kind of be satisfied with how I look when I go through my preps. So I've gone through many, but I've never completed them because I just never thought I was ready, regardless of how many people told me I was. That's my problem. So my next planned show is, I had one actually right before COVID hit. And of course, when that hit, the show got canceled in May. And so I'm hoping that next May that I'll be able to actually get on stage. But I've been to plenty, seen plenty of them, and I just love that whole atmosphere of it.
Yeah. Yeah, see, for me, it was the opposite. It was I definitely wasn't ready. It was a rush decision. The show I did was in April 2019. Okay. So it was let's say a year and a half ago now. But basically around Christmas time, I would say. So December 2018. So I had I don't know, 4 months, let's say. I just decided to do the show. So it was, for me, it was something that I kind of rushed into. And obviously it was my first show. So it was an adventure, that's for sure. But going back now, I don't think I would have changed it. I think I would have I think your first show is going to be always a learning process. Do you know what I mean? As ready as you think you are, there's things that I did during the show where I was just oh shit, I got to work on the posing. Shit, I got to get the tanning. I got to do the travel. There's just always things where it's like every show. Like I wouldn't say that because I only did one show for myself, but I just know like that show gave me so much experience on, let alone just like, so heading into my next show, like I'll be more well prepared. And another thing too is I thought I had a lot more muscle than I actually did. When I got leaned down, like I was just like, holy shit, where do my arms go? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
how much water you hold into your muscles. So when all that's depleted, you kind of are like, whoa, yeah, I thought I was going to be a lot bigger.
yeah, and I was surprised. I got down to like, see, I lost like a crazy amount of weight. Like I went from 220 pounds to 168
Whoa, yeah.
in like 3 months. So yeah, I think I lost like a lot of muscle when I did it as well. So I was doing like 2 hours cardio a day. I was eating basically like spinach and green beans every meal. Like it was pretty brutal. So
You must have felt like death.
oh man, like yeah, like it was horrible. Like around like the 6 week mark, like I couldn't even go to work. Like I was so like it was just so mentally draining that I couldn't even. It was very very hard. So yeah. So in terms of your show, you mentioned that are you planning on doing a show this year or next year?
Next year. So what I'm doing is, and I'm bulking up for the rest of the year. I don't think they're going to be doing any local shows. I think most of them are just going to kind of be canceled. But I plan on May or June of next year, depending on how my bulking prep goes and when I really want to start the full on prep.
Yeah, my biggest advice is just make sure that you're like 100% ready.
This time, I what, maybe 3 shows I've picked out, paid for everything, and I never just went through it. Went all the
Yeah,
way. And that's my biggest problem. I'm just a perfectionist on myself, the biggest critic, and I just got to kind of just go with it.
yeah. It's like definitely like a whole commitment. Like as much as people say it is, like until you actually like really experience it, like it's crazy how much like it involves your whole life. Like it's like you have to make sure that you're on point, especially like depending on like with you being a perfectionist. I can just like imagine like how particular you'd be. And like for me, it was like I'm kind of the same way too. Like when it comes to things like that, like I really absorb myself in it. So like it's really good to make sure that like you're in a good place whenever you do it. So
Now, my problem is I love the prep. I think prep is fun for me. It does me feeling like tired. I'm always tired, anyways. Being like on prep doesn't bother me. I love it. I'll go all the way through prep until peak week and everything, and then I'll look at myself. I'm like, nope, not ready. I don't look like a pro yet. That's my problem, and then I stop it. And so it's
yeah,
not like I want to go out with my friends. I want to eat junk food. Like I can care less about that. It's just really
yeah.
my own critiques on myself that kind of mess me up.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, hopefully, yeah. So hopefully I'll be able to do that because I look forward to seeing it. But like on the same way, like I was supposed to be doing a show this year as well, but like COVID hit, and then like me being a perfectionist and just kept pushing it. And then I was like, well, I want to make sure like I'm ready. So I've been like hovering between a bulk and a cut and a bulk, and I've been just trying to like maintain my weight for a little bit. And like when COVID hit, I was bulking, so I decided to cut because I was literally just like I was just eating chips and like shit like that I shouldn't have been eating. So I was like, why bulk and like work out at home? Like it's not really going to be beneficial because like I wasn't like maximizing the weights or whatever. So for me, it was like, all right, let's transition to a cut. So ever since I've been cutting,
Okay.
so I'm gonna like probably cut until the rest of the year. I'm thinking, and then I got a goal weight. I'm probably gonna try to get down to 175 somewhere around there.
Okay.
So right now I'm like 187. So if I could get like another 10 pounds off, and then I'll start to climb back up in the new year, and then hopefully hit a show probably around like the end of next year is kind of what I'm thinking.
Okay. Yeah. See, I'm kind of doing the opposite. Like right now, I'm bulking up because after the pandemic, I lost a lot of weight. Like during it, I went
Really?
all 198 pounds, which I've never been under 200 pounds in maybe 5 years. So yeah, I didn't eat anything so I'm not the person to sit around the house and just eat junk food. Like that's not what I do. So I just went out all the time, hiked and did everything. Didn't eat because I had no reason to eat because I couldn't go work out and I couldn't refuel myself. I just wasn't hungry. So I lost maybe 30 pounds during the pandemic, and now I'm totally bringing it back. Now I'm trying to get to 255 for my bulk. Right now I'm at 230, so I'm getting there.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's a process, but it's enjoyable for sure. So now I kind of want to move into your training, like exactly. So what kind of got you? So you're a personal trainer? Is that kind of what you do?
Yeah, well, I haven't personal trained in a minute just because of the pandemic, and the gym I was working at, I left that gym. They were just doing other stuff with their trainers that I didn't agree with, so I stepped away from it. But I love training. I still train some clients on the side, real close friends. But in an actual gym setting, like being hired by a gym, I haven't been for a while.
Did you enjoy it when you were working like in the gym setting?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I love getting people to push themselves and really see their true potential. Like I love it. It's one of the most satisfying thing is making people feel good about themselves and like letting them see like, hey, you can change. Like you don't have to stick at this. Like there's an actual possible way to make yourself
Yeah.
better.
Oh, absolutely. Like I do like online coaching. So for me, it was like it's probably different in terms of like I kind of wish I was involved in like the gym a little bit more in terms of like helping people like with one-on-one training. So that's kind of something like I'm going to experiment with is like trying to integrate like my coaching for like people that are in the area that can do one-on-one sessions and then try to expand to online coaching. But for me, it was like I'm in the exact same way that like when you're doing it online, you're giving someone a plan, you're giving someone a program. It's like it's enjoyable, but when you're actually like crafting up the workouts and putting them through the workouts, it's a completely different feeling. So because you're able to like push them and like you're able to see exactly what they're doing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And like, yeah.
right path. Like, yeah, I've written out hundreds of meal plans, hundreds of workouts and stuff. Like, yeah, that's satisfying. Like, oh, I'm doing this for you. Like, I'm helping you out, but I'm not there seeing it. I'm not there seeing the progress. Yeah, I get progress pictures and whatnot, but I'm not seeing it at firsthand, which is so much better.
Yeah, and like I just find that like it's like I was training one of my friends there, and like he just like I was giving him a plan online. I went to the gym with him a couple times, but like just being able to like push him to know that like to give him the confidence to know that he can go up and weight. Like I think he was like overhead pressing the same weight for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and he's like pretty new to the gym, so like he's gonna make some pretty significant progress pretty quickly. And then like I was like, hey man, like let's just throw another like 5-10 pounds on there and let's do it. But like he didn't think he could do that, and then he ended up getting behind the bar and being able to do it. So like I think just like instilling that confidence and like showing people that like you know what I mean, like you can like as long as you put your mind to it, you can do it. So that's one aspect that like I totally miss, I guess you could say, with like the one-on-one training versus the online coaching. So
That is because, yeah, when you see them finally push themselves and like they're satisfied with it, that makes me happy because it's just seeing the joy on their face, like not thinking they could do it. They didn't expect to be able to push that weight like your buddy, and then they were able to. Like that's just a great feeling, not only on their part, but my part as well. Just know that I'm making them push themselves a little bit more.
awesome. Yes, now I kind of want to move into some more like training specific questions. I basically just want to like pick your brain in terms of like just to see like what your thoughts and opinions are on some of the training concepts.
Okay.
So recently there's been like a lot of talk like, on with training intensity. So what are your thoughts on training intensity in terms of like the amount of effort that you give? And what I mean by that is like, do you feel like you should be going to the gym every day? I guess like not destroy, but like trying to give it your all and like failure stats and like training hard with like enough intensity? Or are you the kind of person that like would rather like periodize the program, spread it out, and like gradually increase intensity over time? How do you feel about that? Or what are your
Uh,
thoughts on that?
I always think everyone trains differently depending on their body, right? So just how your body reacts to that type of training. If someone's really trying to go for longevity, like if someone who's in their 40s doesn't need to go to the gym and go super intense, put 400 on the squat rack, and like and just try to go until failure. Like you don't need to. There's no reason. But for bodybuilders, I believe if we want to go in that direction, talk about bodybuilders, I say you go in and just push as hard as you can every single day. as
Yeah.
hard as you can. Yeah, have your rest days. You need rest days. You need to recover. You need to have that. But when you go in there, and if you're really trying to be serious about it, you need to go and push as hard as you can. Now, does that mean, hey, go as heavy as you possibly can every single set? No, I don't believe so. I say, like, you warm up, always have a warm up, get the muscles ready, and just so you don't rip any, you don't want any tendons tearing. But to be able to gradually in your workout for the day, kind of push the intensity more and more. And I always do it till failure. That's how I work out. I don't really count my sets. I don't count my reps. I just do it till I can't. That's usually
Yeah.
just.
I completely agree. I think that like for me, it's just like I've been known to go in and like train a muscle group to like completely annihilate it. And like I'm sore, like obviously it could impact like my recovery. But like for me, like leaving the gym, like it's not satisfying like starting like week 1 of a mesocycle, let's say, or like a block and like giving like 75% effort. I just feel like for me, I don't feel accomplished. You know what I mean? Knowing that like I didn't give it my all. So like I would rather do too much, I guess, so to speak, than like not enough.
But
So
also listen to your body. If your body's not really feeling like you're able to go all out, push yourself to see if you can, just to see if it's just a mental thing. But if your body's feeling right, don't try to go all out with it, because you're just going to set yourself back. So
yeah,
your body knows it more than you really do. So if you're just not feeling right, don't go full force on it, and then set yourself. You end up getting sick and all that. It's kind of a science with it when it comes to working out. It's not just going in there lifting weights and leaving. That's what a lot of people think. It's just, oh, I lift weights for like an hour and then leave, and then I'm fine. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get fit. That's not how it works. You got to kind of listen to your body, and whatever you react with the best, that's what you should do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people have problems with, so to speak. And I would definitely say I'm one as well, because like not that I'll overtrain, but I think I definitely overtrain versus like undertrain. And like it's hard for me to find that like that balance between like maybe I should take a rest day today, maybe I shouldn't have, you know what I mean, push that set of like squats or push that set of like whatever. But like I've never, knock on wood, I've never really had like a bad injury. Like I've never had something where it was like, I mean, I've only been training for like 4 or 5 years now, but like I've never really had like a pretty serious injury. So I don't know if that's form, but that kind of like leads me next into my next topic here. So with like load and like the mind muscle connection, how do you feel about like, do you feel like the mind muscle connection with bodybuilding, I'm relating this to bodybuilding, do you think that the mind muscle connection should always be prioritized over the amount of weight that you're actually lifting?
Oh, yes, of course, because once you have that mind and muscle connection, you can always push the weight more and more gradually. Because if you're just going pulling weight and you don't feel the muscle contracting, you don't actually feel it working, it's really not. So I always say, whenever I'm training any of my clients that want to be in bodybuilding, always start low and slow. So low
Yeah.
weight, low repetitions, and just feeling it. And I'll always, let's say they're doing like a seated row. I'll put my finger like right on the inner part of the lat and have them pull, and like try to contract that muscle to where I'm pushing my thumb, and have them really, really feel it. So then when I, stop putting my thumb there, then they're able to then contract that muscle. Or same thing with leg extensions. A lot of people at the quad, the teardrop is what they really call it, can't really contract it that well. So I'll put my thumb there, press on it, and as they do a leg extension, try to like, I'll say, all right, now push up on my thumb, like try to flex my thumb, and they're able to do it. And then once I let go, they're now able to contract that muscle more. So yeah, and then once you're able to really find that mind and muscle connection, then push the weight. Then you can go up more and more. I wouldn't just say, hey, yeah, blast up, like go 200 pounds on it, and then yeah, you're gonna grow that way. Because I don't believe you.
I agree. So is there like a specific like muscle group that you kind of had a hard time like with, like the mind muscle connection?
Yeah, I do know it was actually my quads. It was my quads. It was the teardrop, the upper part of the teardrop. That's what my biggest one was. So every time I would do leg extensions, I would press down with my hands as I extended up and just squeeze as hard as I could, just so I could actually feel it. And then ever since I did that, I don't need to do it anymore. But any weight I do, I'm able to contract and really feel the muscle.
And I think that it transitions well into like posing as well, right? Because like if you're if you're posing and you can't like contract, like if you're doing a back double bicep, let's say, and you can't contract your hamstrings,
Mm-hmm.
then I've been in poses, I've like filmed poses of myself, and like I can see like the muscle twitching, right? It's like coming in and coming out. It's like my mind muscle connection is like, it's almost like I'm flexing and I'm not flexing. I'm not able to keep that contraction with some muscles. But like once you get it, like once you get that mind muscle connection, and I think that like there's a lot of carryover with the exercises as well. Like I think a lot of the times, like in your posing reflects your exercise. Because like if you're not like if you're doing seated hamstring curls or like lying hamstring curls and you're not contracting the muscle, not really feeling it, you're just like moving the weight, it's going to reflect like the posing. So like how do you feel about that? What are your thoughts on like the posing aspect with
Well, my coach actually, when he trains me, and when I was first training with him, he said, any workout that you do, flex that muscle as if you're posing.
yeah.
He's like, you know how hard you're flexing when you're posing? That's exactly what you need to do when you're working out. So let's say if I'm doing curls, he wants me to come up and flex my biceps as hard as I can as if I was doing a pose.
Yeah.
Same thing, chest, squeeze as hard as you can. Just flex everything as hard as you can at the top of the rep, bottom of the rep, whatever, the flex is actually happening, the contraction, and just do it as hard as you can as if you're posing. So when you are posing, like you said, then you're able to really feel that muscle contract and pop out more.
Yeah, so for me, it was definitely my lats for me that I had a hard time connecting with. Like the hamstrings eventually, like they're still an issue, but I feel like the lats, like when I was doing a lat spread, I just had a really hard time pushing those lats out, and I could never really feel them. So I did like the single arm lat pull-ins. Basically, all you do is you can do it like overhead like this, where you do like a crunch almost, or you do like a single arm row. I found that those really helped. And I just found that like activation exercises, I was a firm believer that like for a while there, I would go in and I would start my workout off with the compound movement. So like if it was leg day, I would go in and do squats. Whereas now I'll start it off with more of an isolation exercise. So I'll go in there and I'll do some like leg extensions to start off with just to get the mind muscle connection. And I found like that was probably one of the biggest changes that I made, was just improving the mind muscle connection, making sure that I'm really feeling the exercise versus like I'd rather go in and be like feel the squats versus just like pushing weight on squats. And when you're fresh, like I find that it was hard for me to do that. It almost felt like I was squatting and going through the movement. But like if I like pre-activate and pre-fatigue my quads, and I'm going to be able to squat less, but I'm going to be able to get a lot more out of doing the exercise because I'm going to feel it a lot better.
Yeah, it's not always about weight. Just because someone in the gym is pushing 405, like good for them. Let them do
Yeah,
that. You have different goals, so don't always worry about like people always want to do it off of ego. Oh, look how much I'm lifting. Well, that's great, but are you really feeling any of the muscles contract or anything like that? Are you really growing, or are you just trying to put on a show?
yeah,
People do that. They want to push and push and push, but then they hurt themselves because they're just trying to show off for people. And yeah, I've never been the one to want to show off. I don't care, like, oh, even if my friends are like, oh, go as heavy as you can, go as heavy. It's like, well, no, I don't want to hurt myself. I really don't. And right now,
that's another thing. Yeah, that's another important thing that you mentioned too, was like the longevity and like hurting yourself. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can't make progress when you're like, you can make progress when you're hurt, but it's good. You're gonna have to work around a lot of things.
yeah,
And I think that that's another thing you've got to take into consideration too, is that like going, like you said, going heavy is for show. Like sometimes, like there's people that can go heavy that can get a benefit out of it. I'm not saying that there aren't, but I think that a lot of people are just trying to push weight to push weight. But you mentioned a good point with that though too, is just like you risk injury, and if you're injured, then like you're just going to be, it's going to be more time away from the gym. So like from a longevity standpoint, like you mentioned, you're better off like when you're training the client, like you mentioned, you start off slow, making sure that you're feeling the movement versus having someone go in there and try to just like move the weight. And I think a lot of people unfortunately get started with just trying to move weight and trying to progress every week, and next thing you know, they end up adding too much that they can't handle, end up getting injured. So
I'll go heavy, and I know my limit. Well, I push it here and there, yeah, but I'll never push it over maybe like a 5 or 10 pound maximum. And then I'll work my way up slowly with it. Yeah, I'll still go to failure and try to go real heavy, but I know my limits of heavy. Just because I say I go heavy every set doesn't mean I'm trying to max out every set. So that's for people that have a problem like, oh, go heavier, go heavier. Well, I can, but I'm not going to, just to save myself from injury. It's
yeah,
like not there to work out for other people. I'm there to work out for myself.
And I think it's very like exercise specific too. Like I think that if you can go like you're not going to go heavy with an isolation exercise, but like you could, but like your chances of going heavy on an isolation exercise versus going heavy on maybe like deadlifts, for example, like if you're going to be deadlifting, like you can deadlift heavy and still benefit from like as long as you're performing it right. But I think that like a lot of people think that they have to go heavy on every single exercise. And I think that like you have to pick some exercises where you do go heavy because I think it is an important aspect. But I think that everybody tries to like apply that concept to like everything. So like if you were doing deadlifts, like they want to max out every day on deadlifts, but they also want to max out every day on preacher curls. And
Yeah.
it's like, what's the point of trying to max out on preacher curls? Like the whole idea of a preacher curl is like an isolation exercise to like train your biceps through like the full range of motion. So like if you're going to be trying to go in there and progress the same way you are with deadlifts with preacher curls, then you're misusing the exercise.
Exactly. Well, then they'll be rocking back with it, and they're not even actually using the bicep mostly.
Yeah. So it's like I think that like that comes down to like making sure you understand like how the exercise is programmed. Like, is it programmed for like a strength exercise where maybe it's okay to use a little bit? Like, for example, like cheat curls. Like if you're specifically doing cheat curls, that's a completely different exercise than just cheating on bicep curls. Because you're going in there and you're doing it with intention and you know exactly. So I think a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but I think that like the most important thing is to like know how the exercise is programmed and like what the meaning behind it, like it is. And like if you're gonna do something like cheat curls, understand that like you're cheating for like why you're cheating for a reason. Like maybe your biceps are like a weak point, you're trying to bring them up and you've tried everything. But I think that like swinging barbell curls it's not going to be beneficial as long as you like if you don't program them correctly, right?
Yeah, correct.
So now I just kind of want to move into the training aspect with the like the structured program versus like intuitive training. So what are your thoughts on, do you normally follow a structured program, or is it something that like, what I mean by intuitive training is that like, let's just say that you're an intermediate to advanced lifter who kind of understands that they need to have like, understands their body, understands a workout, but really don't like have that, like they understand like progression, but what I mean is just like writing down the workout the day before you do it and just saying like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do for this workout versus like a whole structured program where it's like, these are the exercises that I'm doing for 8 weeks and this is how I'm going to progress through the exercise. Like, how do you feel about either or which one would you prefer?
Like which one I would do myself or which one I would put on a client?
Which one you would do yourself?
Do myself. I kind of go and I kind of listen to my body during my training. So I always start like, well, I guess we'll just go with kind of like how my splits are. Um, I'll do chest and arms, then back, then legs and shoulders, chest and arms, and I'll always hit my weak points twice a week. So my
Yeah.
legs and chest twice a week, and I'll just listen to it. I'll listen to my body. If my upper chest is not feeling the best, then I'll hit more lower. Like I don't have anything extremely structured for myself. I really don't,
Yeah.
because I just know how my body will react. If I need to miss a day, I miss a day, even if I'm have it planned to work out. So yeah, for me, it's not extremely structured. But let's say if I try to go for my clients, I do have a structured workout for them, because me seeing them, the probably like I don't know exactly how their body's feeling. They can tell me, but when I set it up for them, I make sure they go through the process correctly, because first of all, a lot of my clients don't know exactly what they're doing, and they
Yeah.
need my help for them. But for myself, yeah, I just listen to my body on how I want to train that week or that day.
So the only I'm the exact same thing. Like I've been through phases where I follow programs. I've been through phases where I like created my own program and like tried like did it for like a certain amount of like weeks or whatever. The one thing that I find though, so there's two things that I want to mention on this is just the fact that like the progressive overload aspect of it. Like there's been, not saying like I would go in and do the same amount of weight, but like obviously you can progressively overload in different ways. So you can like add sets, you can add reps, you can like increase the difficulty, you can increase the intensity. Like there's 100 different ways to progressively overload. But like from a progressive overload standpoint, how do you ensure that like you have some progressive overload if you're not writing down your workouts, or do you just kind of like remember like I did incline dumbbell press with like 45, so this week maybe I'll try a static hold, or maybe I'll try to go up 5 pounds, or is it, how do you like ensure that there is some
progress with it? So yeah, I always remember how much I push. I always do. I've never had to write down anything to know how many reps or anything. So I'll remember from last week. Okay, yeah, I did 100 for a dumbbell incline. I'm gonna try to go for 115 today. I'm gonna try it. Just go for
yeah,
it. Oh, or I'll do the 100 pounds, but yeah, I'll do a static and I'll come down with a very, very slow decrease of the weight. So that's kind of how I go about it. I never write it down.
yeah.
To me, writing that, it's weird for me because when I write the stuff down, I feel like I hold myself to that number, that I'll never go above it, that it's kind of like, oh, that's only I can do. I don't know why. For me, it just kind of, I don't know, it kind of sets me back for
I think
some.
that I think it takes the fun out of it, because like if you're like, obviously you need to have structure, but obviously you need to have some fun as well. So it's a balance between like, if you write down a complete structured workout, like you said, you're bound to stop at 10 reps. You know what I mean? Like your mind is set on 10 reps. And if you've got 115 in your hand and they feel like awesome today, like why should you stop at 10 reps just because it's written down on paper? Like, why don't you try, you know what I mean? Like doing a couple extra reps, or doing some partials, or doing, and it's so hard to like it's so hard to write that stuff down and be like, okay, well, after 10 reps, I'm going to feel wonderful. And so it's like, it's not like almost like auto regulation, like during your workout, like you're going based on how you feel. And I feel like you can get even more demotivated or even more discouraged if you write down that you're going to go in there and do 100s. And next thing you know, you got this weird thing going on with your shoulder and you don't know why your shoulder's bothering you. And it's like, then you have to like reassess and say, well, am I going to continue doing this exercise? But if you like write it down, then you almost feel like, I'm the same way. Like I almost feel shittier about it.
Yeah, it
Because
makes
it seems like too serious. You know what I mean?
Yep, like I'm kind of limiting myself to those numbers on the paper. That's why I don't really have reps or sets. Do I have like a general number I go between? Yes, of course. It's not like, oh, I'll do like 10 sets of 100 reps for this exercise and then only do 4 or 10 for this one. Like it's nothing like that. I have my kind of numbers I go between, but I never have set plan to go in there and say, this is what I'm going to do for this. That's what I'm going to do for this. No, I go in there, whatever I feel that day. Am I going to push
Yeah.
extremely hard each day? Try to, yes, but I don't have a planned workout.
And another thing that used to piss me off too when I did it was like I would like program like cable flies. You know what I mean? Like cable chest flies or something. I'd go in there and the gym would be booming, and like the cable would be taken, and then I'd be like, oh shit, like I wrote it down in my program, like, but like whereas if like you're doing more intuitive, you could be like, well, instead of doing cable flies, I'll just do like a pec deck machine and like see if that's open, and then like you can have more like flexibility. And I just found that like if you're completely writing and structuring your workouts, it like for me it was annoying saying like I have to do cable flies, so I'd be sitting around like waiting until the cable machine was open because that's what I programmed, that's what I wrote down. And I'm the kind of person like when I do something like that, I'll stick to it. But like later on, I'd be like, why wouldn't I just do something different? You know what I mean? Like I should have just did tech deck flies. So like I just like lived and learned through like that, like making my own workouts, like not on the spot, but like making sure there is progression. But like you said, like just kind of having a little bit more fun with it and like listening to my body and seeing like what's available that day and like how I'm feeling that day. So that's an extremely good. But yeah, I'm the exact same way too. Like I would much prefer like intuitive, and then with clients as well. Like they would need more of a structured program because, like you said, like a lot of them are beginners, a lot of them are new to lifting, and I think that a lot of people, and I think it's very individual based too. Because there's some people that actually need meal plans, and whereas there's other people who like are pretty good with it that just need like a general guideline. So I think that like it's very individual based. Like some people like. I know I've given programs to people sometimes and they don't want it completely structured. They just basically want to know a couple exercises and what they can do. Whereas some people, like in order for them to get to the gym, they need to know like exactly what exercises they're doing. So
At that, for most of my experienced clients that I have, like they kind of go with like how I work out. Like I'll have set things. Hey, let's try this. Let's do that, and push yourself to what you believe you can do today. But more of my inexperienced ones, yeah, I have to have the exact reps, the exact sets. of everything for them to feel comfortable with it. Because if I go in there without really knowing, they feel discouraged, and I don't want them to feel that way. So you are right. I think it just comes with the experience and how well you know your body. Because at first I had to have structured workouts to know exactly
Yeah.
what to do, to know the form and everything. But now, since I know myself, I know my body, like I can go in there and just kind of wing it and then have an awesome workout.
Yeah, just one more thing on that point, just because you just kind of came to me. But with the clients thing, I think a lot of people like to see progression, and I think that like if you're not tracking your workouts, like when you first start, like you're going to see a lot of progression. But I think as a trainer, and if you're training somebody, you're able to show them that you're getting them result because like they went in like as opposed to just like seeing it like visual, like yes, I'm losing weight, but like if you're losing weight and you're getting stronger with the bench press, then like that's something that you're like, oh wow, like it's working, like my strength's going up, my weight. But like as you come accustomed to it, it's like you said, now that with your experience, you know what I mean? Like you just know your body, you know how much you lift. But like from a client perspective, I think it's good because people like to see that they're getting better.
Yep.
And the only way to do that is to track it. So I think it like instills like good habits as well. Like it gets people like it holds them accountable to their workouts. And then like once they kind of get to the point where they're like, okay, like I'm okay with this, then like they can just kind of ease up like on the tracking and then just get the guidance. Yeah, that was one thing I wanted to add on that.
Oh yeah.
So with the nutrition, I just kind of want to cover a couple of things here. So supplements, if you had so if you could only take 3 supplements, I don't know how many supplements you take right now. What three? Like I guess like from a beginner standpoint. So let's relate this to a beginner, somebody who like came up to you and was like, "Listen, I've only got the money for 3 supplements. What supplements would you recommend them for them to take?" Obviously, they're interested in bodybuilding, and obviously their goals are to build muscle.
That's a good one. Let's see. What would be my 3 go-to that I would have? Oh, I always I would say creatine for one of them for sure. That was always one of my favorite things to take when I was starting off. It felt pump. It just put the water into the muscle. It just felt it was a really nice way to gain some nice size. Oh, that's a hard one because the problem is I never recommend protein powders to anyone. I'm more like the real food. That's what I
Yeah,
really, because I just don't trust the chemicals, and a lot of time it just makes people bloat and just feel
yeah,
nauseous.
yeah.
Um,
And it's expensive too, right? Because if you start relying on protein powder, like you're using like 3 scoops a day, you can run out pretty quickly, and you're spending quite a bit of money versus just like eating the food, getting groceries, buying eggs, buying egg whites, buying chicken, buying like lean meats. So
oh yeah, yeah. That's hard. So I've never been one to really go for supplements really. So it would kind of like me being a hypocrite trying to push the supplements on someone when I'm not big in taking them because just a lot of chemicals and stuff I don't trust.
yeah,
There's this to me, but huh. Yeah, creatine's one of them. I'm trying to really think the ones that really did a lot for me. Huh. Yeah, I didn't. You know what, man? I can't really top 3. I don't
so
know.
creatine for sure.
Creatine for sure. At least starting off, it's just that I took a bunch of supplements in the beginning and just kind of everyone I took just I don't know, just either I felt like didn't do anything, was a placebo thing for me, or made me not feel the best. So
Yeah,
like pre-workouts, I guess pre-workouts, I guess as a supplement is always good, but those can also mess you up with how much caffeine that's in them. Uh, and then yeah, I would say creatine, some pre-workout. That's a nice supplement to have because you're able to push yourself just a little bit more. That 1 scoop of something could be that extra 5 pounds on the bench or something like that. What else?
for me, I would say if I had to recommend 3, I would probably say I would agree with you with creatine. I would go with the creatine for sure, just because it's like cheap, it's cost effective, and it actually does what it says it does. Um, and then I would probably say a whey protein powder. I would probably if they had the money, I would probably recommend like an isolate. Just because I've found personally like that it doesn't upset my stomach nearly as much. And I'm able to digest it a little bit better. So if you were in a situation where you could get an isolate, I would definitely recommend like an isolate. But I also think that like that like it's good for people that are looking to lose weight because like or have trouble eating in the morning, because you can easily take a scoop of protein powder. So it comes in as for like a convenience thing, not just like, I totally agree with you that like it kind of forces people out of the mentality of like eating actual food because they just rely so much on the supplements. But I think that if you kind of like make sure that they understand that it's a supplement, and that like if you need something, you don't feel like cooking at night, and like it's late at night, you get home and you're like, ah, shit, like I want a little bit more protein. Have a scoop, you know what I mean? Instead of like cooking up an egg and having to do the dishes, like it's just like just as a convenience thing, right? So I would say like a creatine, a whey protein, and probably I'm torn between like a fish oil, or like a pre-workout. So
I would probably go for more fish oil, honestly, just to help out. Oh, well, you know what? Actually, my other one is a joint support. I take a joint support every single day.
what do you take for joint? Because that's something I'm looking into. What are you taking for joint support?
Oh, really, just the CVS brand of joint support.
Yeah,
That's
so just
special, nothing extremely expensive. Just go on to CVS, it's their brand, and that's what I take. And
yeah.
it does help because when you do start pushing heavy, your elbows, your knees,
Oh, I
everything,
know.
feel it, because especially if you're growing muscle fast, your joints and tendons aren't going to be able to keep up. So that just also provides longevity too, is just making sure your joints are okay. So when you're 50 years old, after 20 years of lifting, you're not like aching every day and feeling like crap. So yeah, joint support. Yeah, I don't know why I wasn't even thinking that. Joint support, definitely.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
recommend that. Like, I didn't understand it until like now because I never really got any issues. But like lately, I've been getting like this like weird tendonitis in my like tricep area. Like I don't even know. It comes and goes. Like people have issues with their shoulder, but for me, it's always been, well, it hasn't been my shoulder. I never really had any issues until I turned 30. And then like once I turned 30, it was like, holy shit, like where are these coming from? I'm not even doing anything different. Like I'd always warm up, but like now it's more. You know what I got? Is I got one of those massage guns.
Oh,
Um,
those
those
things,
things are those things are bomb. Yeah, I think they're totally worth it. Like you can get them for. I got mine. It's actually a Good Life brand. I got it at Canadian Tire. I'm in Canada, obviously. I'm in Nova Scotia. But yeah, I got it. I got a Canadian Tire. I think I paid like $200 for it. Man, oh man, it's friggin' phenomenal.
oh, they're
Like,
amazing. Yeah,
yeah.
perfect
So
recovery.
like I find that that's been helping. Obviously not your joints, but like just breaking down your muscle. Like I don't get massages and anything regularly, so I found that that's been helping. But like I definitely need to look into something because there'll be days where I go in and I just completely feel like joints. I don't even feel like I'm working my muscles. I feel like I'm going in for a joint workout.
I think that's
So
what people like. Oh well, my joints don't hurt, so I don't need a joint support. Well, no, it's before they start hurting, so they
preventative.
never get to the point of actually deteriorating to where they start hurting.
Absolutely. I just kind of want to move on to a couple more questions, and then I'll let you go. So I want to talk a little bit about motivation. This is kind of like there's no right answer, obviously, but people always obviously compare like motivation with discipline. So I'm not necessarily talking about discipline. I'm talking more about motivation. What do you feel is like the main reason to like why motivation like comes and motivation goes? Just in general, like there'll be days where like you wake up and like you'll go and you'll feel completely fine and like you'll have workouts that are like phenomenal. But then there'll be some days where it's like struggling going to the gym for like 3 or 4 days. I don't know if you can relate to that, but like some days is definitely harder than others. So like what are your thoughts on like motivation? Like why do you think that like the people that go through phases, why do you think it like happens? What's your opinion and thoughts on that?
Well, everyone has different things that motivate them, right? A different goal, a different person in life, or something like that. Let's say like it's a goal. You hit that goal, and you haven't set any other goals for yourself. Well, what's motivating you at that point?
Yeah.
So then that's when people are like, oh well, now I don't know what to do. You got to set new goals. If you're a goal motivated person, then you always got to set new goals. Always. If someone, let's see, even like let's say a guy's trying to pursue a girl and that's what's motivating him.
Yeah.
End up not getting the girl, then what's motivating you now? Then you're not going to the gym because why? I'm not doing it for her anymore, so why do it at all? So
Yeah.
like I said, things motivate people differently, but what I say the best way to motivate yourself is just motivate. I'm trying to find the best way to put it. I wouldn't find exterior things to motivate you. What
Mm.
should motivate you the most is how you feel like the best feeling for yourself. So, going into the gym afterwards, you feel amazing. And if you don't go to the gym, you kind of feel like crap, and you kind of
Yeah.
look down on yourself for not going. So instead of exterior things to motivate you, that feeling should motivate you. That feeling of happiness at the end of your workout, a feeling of happiness after hitting that PR, that feeling. Nothing else exterior should motivate you, only yourself and the way you want to feel. Because every time you miss that day when you were supposed to go, a lot of people just look down on yourself. Oh, I wish I should have went, this, and you just start kind of downing yourself. Uh, Motivate yourself so when you do go, it's you motivating yourself, nothing else. That's what I really do now, because I always used to use exterior things to motivate me. Oh, I do this so I can get that. I do this so I'm able to impress somebody. Well, that
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything.
It only lasts so long, you know what I mean, until you just, and I totally agree. I think that like you need to find things like almost like your why, the reason to why you're doing things. Like you have to make sure that like start off your goals with like not just doing it to do it to impress others or because somebody said it was a good idea. Like it's only going to last so long until you actually don't have the passion to do it anymore, and then eventually you're going to start like second guessing yourself. So I think that for me, I'm playing off the same point. I think that like you said with like the things that are around you versus the things that are inside you. How I would kind of say it for me would be like I think a lot of people see like what's going on with social media. They see people achieving certain things and they see like people doing like certain lifts, like deadlifting this and bench pressing that. And I think on the days that like you're feeling good about yourself, like those things motivate you to go to the gym. But the days that you're not feeling good about yourself and like you see that kind of stuff, it almost like discourages you because you feel like you've screwed up a couple times and you cheated on your meal this time, you'll never kind of get there. So I think that a lot of people see what's going on and they focus on almost like competition between other people and trying to like, well, I don't look like that and I've been going to the gym for this long. Like, why don't I look like that? So I think that at the end of the day, it needs to come down to like focusing on yourself. Like I think the only thing you should look at is like yourself in the mirror and like think about like each day getting better on that versus trying to compare yourself to others.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. The people listening out there, never compare yourself to that Instagram guy or the Instagram girl. Like, don't. You don't know their story, so they could have pushed themselves to get to that point. You're just not at the point you want to be. But motivate yourself by your own progress, not by somebody else's. You
Yeah.
know, like you said, if so, like, oh, that's getting you hyped up that guy hit like a PR on a squat or a deadlift, and you want to go try that out. Cool, if that motivates you, but don't let that push you down, like you said, if you're having a bad day, because comparing yourself to people, that's just the wrong way to go about life. Compare your own progress, see where you came from. Like you said, look in the mirror, look how far you've came so far.
Yeah. And I think that's like probably the number one issue that I wouldn't say a lot of people struggle with, but I think that the people who don't have clear goals, who like can't that are not necessarily not doing it for themselves, that are doing it for other people, I think that you can find out pretty quickly like how important it is to like do things for yourself and to be passionate about things and like not have that on you, because at the end of the day it's going to cause you more stress. And I think that like being proud of like what you're doing is the most important thing, and doing it because you love it. I think that's like the number one thing. But yeah, that's just something that I kind of wanted to bring up. Yeah, I understand that we're limited for time, so I think we'll end on a good note. So so just one last thing, if you want to say anything to just kind of close with the podcast, if you have any advice for people that are listening in terms of like lifting or motivation or anything that you want to share before I let you go.
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, I appreciate that you invited me on this. This is awesome. I mean, I really just,
No problem.
yeah. And my biggest thing that I always want to put out there is that if it's lifting or whatever it is, do whatever makes you happy. Whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. Don't let anyone put you down. Don't have any negativity in your life. Always push towards the positives, because anytime you have negativity in your life, all you're going to do is attract negative people, negative scenarios, and everything. So to me, like I said, lifting was my positive way to get into a better part of life. So if that's what it is, go at it full force. Don't let nothing stop you.
Absolutely. Awesome. And just how I conclude every podcast is don't forget to be inspiring, stay motivated, and continue to push your limits.